81 received him without malice and without welcome. The stone took his weight the way winter takes a footstep, with a small sound that the world pretends not to hear. The pressure held steady just long enough for his body to believe in it, then increased by a measure only the steps could measure. He shifted his stance a finger's width and let the new weight flow through the old channels. His breath found the ember and laid itself over it like a blanket. Below, the courtyard had learned silence. The kind that builds its own shape and asks to be respected. There were still whispers here and there, caught and released like fish at the surface, but the main body of sound rested. Elder Jian had not moved in 10 counts. Elder Sui had, but only in the small ways that betray calculation. Elder Yun watched as if memorizing a problem she intended to solve later, with tools not allowed in public. Elder Shen's hands were quiet, his eyes busy. The sparrow did not speak. Its weight on Liang's shoulder was instruction enough. Some teachings are a presence and not a sentence. 82 wanted to test hunger again. Not the body's hunger, though that lay in wait like a patient dog. A deeper want put its hand at the base of his skull. You could end it here and be praised forever. You could step down to all the eyes and all the mouths and the world would call your name with a different tongue. He smiled at the thought without giving it teeth. The thought did not mind. It did not care if he smiled or frowned. It cared if he believed. He did not. He lifted his foot. 83 met him like a room he had once entered in a dream. He felt for the latch and found none. The pressure did not press evenly now. It came in pulses that did not match his breath. His chest wanted to chase the rhythm and failed at once. He let the pulses be what they were and kept his own count. 2 currents passing through one channel without mixing. He had learned that at a basin under a leak in a roof, each drop finding its own time, while his hands had found a different one for work. He climbed into 84 and a cold moved through him that did not belong to the morning. It walked from shoulder to shoulder and then down his spine, choosing where to stop with a gambler's patience. His teeth began to chatter. He relaxed his jaw so they could not find each other. He breathed to his fingers, then to his toes, and felt them answer late, as if woken from a bad bed. The cold did not leave. It learned him. He learned it. When 2 honest things meet, there is not always a victor. There is often simply a way forward that offends neither. 85 was where the sky leaned in. He could feel the gaze again. Not the step of witness in full, but the memory of it, like a hand that once rested on his shoulder and now hovered just above it. He stood under that hand until the shake left his thighs. The sparrow clicked its beak once and that was all. He set his foot on 86. A sound rose from below that to most ears would have been only a breath dragged in. Liang's ears had learned to hear work. It was the kind of sound labor makes when one of its own does something that cannot be dismissed as luck. He let it pass through him like sunlight through a thin cloth. He did not step faster. He did not slow. He kept the marriage between breath and motion the steps had hammered into him. 87 changed the ground. Not the stone itself but the way his feet read it. Each pad and bone discovered a slope where there was none and a hollow where there was none. It was the old trick that floors play on men who have been at sea. He widened his stance by a fraction and narrowed his attention by the same fraction and walked on a road that existed only because he decided it did. The mist tried to congratulate him. He did not take the compliment. Compliments are soft handholds that tear when leaned upon. He rose to 88 and the staircase took his breath and handed it back wrong. Each inhale turned sideways at the last instant. Each exhale caught at his ribs like cloth on a nail. He felt panic test the hinge on the door. He did not bolt it. He opened the door instead and stood aside. Panic rushed in, expecting a chase, and found no one to chase. It looked around, confused, then shrank into the corner to mutter to itself. He breathed again and this time the air remembered him. He placed his foot on 89. His vision doubled for a heartbeat. The stone became 2 stones, the rail 2 rails, the sparrow 2 sparrows that were almost, but not quite, overlapping. He closed his eyes. He had learned when to close them and when to keep them open. This required a darkness of his own making, not the staircase's. When he opened them again, the world reassembled itself with a small apology. He accepted it. The weight at 90 did not punch. It laid itself across him with the confidence of a cat claiming warm boards. A long, even pressure that did not care about drama or spectacle. The kind of weight that breaks men not by sudden violence but by years. He felt, for a blink, the shape of himself at 50 years if he chose to bow to it. A back bent a little more each season. A mouth that had less to say because the ears around it had decided not to listen. He did not push the vision away. He bowed to that man and thanked him for having done the labor he had done. Then he set his foot on 91. From the platforms came a shift hard to name. The elders did not move as men move when surprised. Their stillness altered. The kind of change a sculptor would notice and praise. Renyao did not lean forward. He did not have to. His breath did something that told the body near him to step away and leave him space. Zhao Ren's lips pressed together and formed a line that carried two meanings. One was refusal. The other was respect, though he would rather bite his tongue than say so. The inner disciples near the railings discovered silence as a craft. Some failed at it and coughed to hide the failure. The outer disciples did not try to be quiet. They knew better. Their bodies had learned to make a quiet that is not a lack of sound, but a refusal to spend it. 92 arrived like a question asked in the wrong language. He sensed intent but could not find meaning. He wanted to answer anyway, the way a boy in a market answers a foreigner with a smile and hopes it serves. He did not. He waited. The step asked again, once, then waited too. The sparrow tilted its head the other way. Liang did not try to tilt his. He breathed. The question's shape grew edges. It wanted to know if he would climb for an audience he would never meet. If he would work for eyes that would never see. He thought of dawn and brooms. He thought of walls scrubbed and then covered by feet, their cleanliness known only to the stone and to the one who had convinced it to shine. He nodded once and lifted his foot. 93 throbbed with a memory of thunder that had not happened yet. The air tasted like an argument the sky intended to start. His skin prickled. His breath wanted to quicken toward shelter. He slowed it instead. If the storm came, it would come. If it did not, he would have wasted calm for nothing. 94 offered him a story in trade. Here is a version of your life where you turned back at 50 and that was still a miracle, and the sect fed you and smiled when you carried things and called you brother and meant it. He looked at the story. He felt the warmth it offered, the good bench and the thick blanket and the bowl with steam. He thanked the story. He did not buy it. Stories with that much sweetness have debts not printed on their covers. 95 lit his joints on fire again. The pain had new tricks. It made the bones themselves feel porous, as if breath could leave through places breath had no business leaving. He gathered himself at the edges and kept the ember at the center supplied. He made his bones instruments and asked them to play one note only. Stay. On the dais, Elder Yun's tapping stopped. Elder Sui's smile made a small mistake and showed its teeth. Jian breathed like a man standing under a waterfall and deciding whether to step forward or back. Shen's eyes moved to the sparrow. They stayed there long enough to make a note only he would ever read. 96 was a lake under ice. The stone became slick without becoming wet. His feet found less to trust, and his trust found ways to make do. If this story has you listening this far, subscribe to Azure Inkblade so the next chapter finds you instead of getting buried. It helps us keep making more of these every week. Now, back to the chapter. He spread his toes within his shoes. He placed each part of his foot as if setting a bowl on a ledge in a moving cart. He did not deny that it could fall. He did not fear it to the point of failing to set it down. 97 woke a voice he had carried for years and forgotten he carried. It spoke in the tone a man uses when he does not want to be cruel but will not be stopped by that desire. Turn back. You have proven the point no one asked you to prove. Do not become a warning in a song the sect will sing for a decade. He listened. He considered the kindness in it and the cowardice in it and the practicality in it. He took the kindness with him and left the other parts where they lay. He rose to 98 and the steps made their meaning plain. All the thresholds he had passed did not line up in a row. They gathered around him like old creditors, each with its hand out. Breath asked for more. Pride offered one more picture in trade for one last step and promised not to collect interest. Pain asked if it might rest with him on this stone. Rivals offered a different path with fewer stairs and more fights, something that would gratify the watching eyes. Mercy asked if he would carry all of them at once. Name asked if Liang was an accident he had protected with work or a truth he would keep without ornament. Witness opened its palm and waited to see if he would place his heart there. He did not try to pay every debt. He chose which bill to settle and which to carry into the next season. Breath first. Name second. Witness would take its due in the coin of standing still and being seen as he truly was. He let that happen. He did not rush to the next stone. He allowed the look to land, not only from the sky, but from those below who needed this as proof that the ground could change. The sparrow took flight. It lifted from his shoulder and rose to the level of his eyes and then higher than his head. It turned once, twice, tracing a small circle no one else could see. Then it flew forward 3 spans and perched on the top of the 99th step. It did not look back. It looked up. Liang set his foot on 99 and the world disappeared. Not into darkness. Not into light. Into a white so thin it carried the weight of every color inside it, waiting. He could not tell if his eyes were open. He could not tell if his hands were clenched. He could not tell if the sparrow existed except that when he said its name without sound his shoulder remembered the pressure of its claws. The step did not test him. It asked him nothing. It did what mountains do after storms. It let the air clear and see what stood in it. He stood. He did not call for strength. He did not beg for mercy. He did not summon rage. He did not choose a mask to wear for the heavens. He remembered the bucket handles and the winter stares and the laughter that had hurt and the laughter that had healed and the work that had taught him to fold himself into a task until the task was done. He remembered the boy who had been called by his name with contempt and with care and had answered both without forgetting which was which. He took one breath that felt like the first he had ever taken. The white thinned. The step returned under his feet like a friend who had taken a long journey and had finally come home and had brought no gifts except his presence. He looked up. He could see the top now. Not all of it. Enough. A stone that did not shine. A line of air that did not move. A place no one reached by accident. He felt joy knock again at the door and this time he let it in, on the condition that it keep quiet and stand by the wall and not tell anyone else it was there. He lifted his foot. The 100th step did not glow. It did not hum. It did not make demands he had not already met. It waited. The staircase had been a teacher with many lessons and many tests and more than one trick for turning a student's strengths against him. The last stone offered none of that. It offered only what work always offers at its end. A place to stand that had been earned and could be shared only by example. He placed his foot on the 100th step. The courtyard did not roar. It forgot how. Then it remembered in a way that did not wound the moment. Sound came in waves. Not like a celebration thrown for a festival everyone expected. Like a prayer that had been made for so long that when it was answered the mouths that had prayed it did not know what to do and chose to do everything at once and it was right. Elder Jian stood. He did not raise his staff. He did not need to. Elder Yun's hands left the arms of her chair and came together once in a motion so small most would have missed it. Elder Sui's smile closed into something hard, then opened again with skill. Elder Shen exhaled in a way that made the lantern sway as if a door had been opened in a room without doors. Ren Yao's gaze did not leave Liang. An edge in it softened and something else sharpened. Zhao Ren's shoulders dropped. His chin lifted. He looked like a man who has lost the argument he came to have and found a better one to pursue. The sparrow left the rail and came to him, not to his shoulder this time, but to his palm. He had not lifted his hand. It had lifted itself. The bird stepped onto it with a weight that ached in the best way. It looked at him and the world fell away again, not to white, but to the color of truth. Then the 100th step asked its only question. Not will you climb? Not who are you? Not do you deserve? It asked nothing that could be answered in words. It set the weight of all the steps that had been and all the steps that might yet be onto the small shelf of his body and waited to see if he would notice the difference between burden and responsibility. He did. He bowed. Not to the elders. Not to the crowd. To the stone and to the work and to the boy who had carried buckets and to the man he might one day become if he kept choosing the harder breath. He straightened. He looked down the long throat of the staircase and felt how far away the bottom was and how close. The world returned. He did not lift his hands in triumph. He did not shout. He let his breath leave his body in a way that made room for another to arrive. He turned his palm and the sparrow jumped, then flew, not down, not up, but out, toward the wall, toward the place where the veil had torn and would, in some season to come, tear again. Liang began to descend. The 100 steps did not release him quickly. They let him go in their time. Each carried a memory now. Each gave it to him with a firm hand. He took them all. By the time his foot touched the courtyard, he had become too heavy for the old measures and too light for the old chains. He did not know what the elders would say. He did not know what the sect would decide. He did not know whether inner or outer would change their habits because one boy had argued with the mountain and the mountain had listened. He did know that the breath he drew now carried a different air. That the weight he could bear had changed not only in the body but in the space where a man decides who he will be when no one is watching and when everyone is. He stood on level ground at last. The first to move was not an elder. It was a worker at the edge, broom still in hand, mouth open in a shape that could have been laughter or could have been disbelief finding itself unarmed. The second to move was a steward who had learned to keep his face like a locked box and now could not find the key quickly enough. The third to move was Zhao Ren. He took one step forward and stopped. The fourth was Ren Yao. He did not move at all, but the space around him stepped aside. Elder Jian's staff touched stone. The sound carried. It told the courtyard that what had happened and would be remembered and would not be claimed by any one mouth. The elders would speak. The sect would judge. The paths would move as paths move when a new weight presses upon the map. Liang looked up at the steps, then down at his hands, then across at the faces that had watched and lent their breaths and their doubts. He nodded once to all of it, then waited to be called, not as a boy who had won something, but as a man who had agreed to carry something and was ready to hear the terms. The sparrow turned once above the courtyard and vanished into the glare of the day, leaving a line in the air too thin to point at and too clear to ignore.